All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about something I saw online, which was that, Floyd Mayweather's undefeated record, or as an undefeated retired champion, is nothing new. That other people have undefeated records and even better undefeated records. And they cited Jimmy Barry. They even cited it incorrectly, saying he had, 70 and 0, whereas Floyd Mayweather, he only has 50 and 0. I want to talk a little bit more about that. So the first thing I want to say is that what Floyd Mayweather accomplished with his 50 and 0 has never been done before. And I'll explain to you simply like this. When it comes to the level of competition, no one comes close to that. And that 50 and 0 is the most amount of fights somebody has had undefeated and perfectly undefeated. There's no draws, no contests, and completely beat every single opponent, and top tier opponents at that. So we're going to look at the level of competition. We're not going to focus on anything else. So when we look at Jimmy Barry, for example, 59, 0, 9, and 2, which is 59 wins, 9 draws, and 2 no contests. He was the bantamweight world champion from 1894 to 1899, which was when he had bare knuckle brawls, and it was the primitive times. He had 6 wins in his title defenses and 3 draws. I'm going to show you guys what it is that was going on with Jimmy Barry. So when we look at the level of competition that Jimmy Barry had, this is at the end of his career. Harry Harris, 24-1-1. Okay, he had a draw with him. It was a 6-rounder. And then he had Casper Leon, who he had faced numerous times, 35-4-13. And he had a 20-rounder with him, and it was a draw. It was for the world 110 pounds paperweight title. And then again, he faced Casper Leon. Yet another draw. You see, it was a 6-rounder. They had a 4-rounder with some guy called Frank Bartley, and it was a draw. And 7-0-3. The guy only had 10 fights. Jack Ritchie only had 5 fights, and they added a draw after 6 rounds. And we can just go on and on and on. Steve Flanagan, he had a draw at 6 rounds. A 20-rounder was a draw against Casper Leon again. Okay, you can see Casper Leon has a lot of experience, 34, 3-9. That is 40, I think it's 46 fights. All right. Billy Rochford had 13 fights. He had a draw. Johnny Ritchie had 5 fights. They had a win for him in 6 rounds. I mean, if you look at the majority of his career, though, you will see a lot of debutantes. Let's just go all the way down. And you can see most of his fights were against inexperienced pro fighters. They may have had a fighting background, but they were inexperienced pro fighters. Okay? So most of these guys were stopped. So that's why they said he was a great knockout artist. But really and truly, most of his career, he was facing guys who were not pros like himself and didn't have the experience that he had at the pro level like himself. They probably were fighting, but these were primitive times, okay? The 1800s, bare knuckle brawls. Fights were happening in barns and shit, all right? Now, this is the same for another fighter that I'm going to show you guys one time so you guys can just dismiss him. And that guy would be Jack McAuliffe, okay? Jack McAuliffe was a lightweight world champion from 1886 to 1893. Okay, and you can see he had 7 title defenses, 2 draws with those title defenses, no contests. So that's what was up. So I'm not going to go look at Jack McAuliffe, okay? So you have to look at guys who had respectable level of opposition. So I'm going to dismiss some of these guys on this list, okay? I'm just going to focus on the following people. I'm going to focus on Andre Ward. I'm going to focus on Ricardo Lopez, and I'm going to focus on Joe Calzaghe. And I may mention some of these guys in passing, all right? Because the other guys, to be honest with you, either they won titles much later on, and that includes Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano basically beat 4 good fighters, okay? Great fighters, but not great heavyweight fighters, okay? He beat Ezzard Charles, who became heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, I think he overachieved. He was really a great lightweight champion. He was not a great heavyweight champion. And then you had Jersey Joe Walcott, who accomplished that late in his career, And kudos to Jersey Joe Walcott, again, a hell of a fighter. And then he also beat the Mongoose. All right, you guys know who the Mongoose is. But the Mongoose was never really a heavyweight champion. He was a great lightweight champion, but a great, light heavyweight champion, but he wasn't a heavyweight champion, okay? And then, of course, he beat the aging, should never have been in the ring, Joe Louis. I mean, after Joe Louis had beat Jersey Joe Walcott the second time, he should have just hung it up. In fact, he let Ezra Charles beat him, and the only reason Ezra Charles beat him because he was done. He was done. Stick a fork in it. He was done. Okay. So, we include Joe Louis in there because he's a name, but really, Rocky Marciano beat a guy who should never have been in the ring with him. Period. Okay. Because Rocky Marciano was young, vibrant, strong, and is an old, Asian, tired veteran. There's no way he should have been in the ring with Rocky Marciano. Okay. And it was just a travesty to watch. Anyways, back to what we was talking about. So, yeah, we'll talk about Joe Calzaghe, and in doing so, I mentioned Sven Otnick one time. So Joe Calzaghe should have faced Sven Otnick because both of them shared a common opponent, which was Byron Mitchell, and it was just months apart. Byron Mitchell, who was the WBA Super Champion at Super Middleweight, faced Sven Otnick, and Sven Otnick beat him to take away his Super Middleweight title, and then Joe Calzaghe faced him a month later for his IBF title. I think it was vacant, and he beat him too. So Joe Calzaghe could have faced Sven Otnick. I don't know if it was because Sven Otnick exclusively fought in Germany that Joe Calzaghe said, I ain't going to Germany. You come to me, or something like that. I don't know what happened, but he should have faced Sven Otnick. Anyway, that's besides the point. The point is that they didn't face each other. This is what Joe Calzaghe's resume looks like. He faced Roy Jones Jr. I gotta say, this is an asterisk on it. Big asterisk on Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. fought way too many fights past what he should have fought. Okay? Roy Jones Jr. should have hung it up after he became heavyweight champion of the world and faced Antonio Tarver at light heavyweight and almost got beaten by Antonio Tarver. He should have just hung it up after that. Nope. He decided to continue fighting. And so as a result of that, he was beaten by a lot of people who more than likely would never have beaten him post Antonio Tarver. Okay? Bernard Hopkins, though, that was a good win for Joe Calzaghe. Mikhail Kessler was a very good win. That was an undefeated, unified WBC, WBA super middleweight champion. Great win for him there. Sekio Bika would later become the WBC super middleweight champion. That was also a great win. Jeff Lacey, the IBF super middleweight champion. That was a great win for Calzaghe. These were all great wins for Calzaghe. That's about it, though, when it comes to Calzaghe. All right? The other win that he had was against Chris Eubank. Chris Eubank was at the end of his career, and just like Roy Jones Jr., he was pretty much done. He should have stuck a fork in it a while ago, but he did not. Okay? So Joe Calzaghe's major wins were the following names. All right? Byron Mitchell, Jeff Lacey, Sekio Bika, Mikhail Kessler, and Bernard Hopkins. That's 5 names. If you include Roy Jones Jr. and Chris Eubank Jr., you get 7 names. Okay? Which is not bad at all for an undefeated fighter. Okay? It's not bad at all. Ricardo El Finito Lopez. 51 wins, 1 draw. He fought also some good fighters. Probably not going to Boxing Hall of Fame, these fighters, but nonetheless he will, if he hasn't already. Now he faced to win his first title against a very, very good fighter. Okay? He faced Hideyuki Ohashi, who, even though he lost the WBC minimum weight title from Ricardo Lopez, would come back to get that title in his career again. All right? So this guy was a true champion. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the really fantastic little fighters he faced. Another very good fighter was Samang Sorjarutong, which is from Thailand. Now, when he faced him, it was one of his defenses for the WBC minimum weight title, but he would go on to become minimum weight champion later on in his career as well. The other great fighters that he faced was Alex Sanchez. faced Alex Sanchez to get the WBO minimum weight title. Alex Sanchez would go on to win minimum weight titles again, even after he was beaten. So again, just kudos to him. Of course, now he had the WBO and WBC titles. He then faced Rosendo Alvarez and fought him to a draw. Rosendo Alvarez would go on to lose to him and lose his WBA title. Now he had the WBC, WBO, and WBA titles. The other interesting thing is that Rosendo Alvarez would go on to regain minimum weight titles when Ricardo Lopez left minimum weight, and then he would go on to win a junior flyweight title as well. So Rosendo Alvarez was a real legit champion. And again, he beat Rosendo Alvarez by split decision. It was a close fight. He could have ended up being his nemesis. He could have rematched Rosendo Alvarez, but he retired from boxing before that. He then faced Will Grigsby, a very good fighter as well. He was the IBF light flyweight champion or junior flyweight champion. Will Grigsby would go on again to become world champion after Ricardo Lopez would have, I think he became world champion, a WBO world champion, and he lost the title because of drug. They said he was dirty. They found some drugs, drug doping on him. And then he would go back to win the his WBA or IBF light flyweight title. So this guy was legit, okay? And that was another guy. And then he faced the IBF minimum weight champion, former champion, Ratanpul Sorvorapin. And then he faced the guy that beat him, which was Zolani Petello, to become the IBF middleweight champion, meaning that he got all 4 minimum weight belts. If you think about it, at least the guys who won all 4 minimum weight belts, he had all of them. This is just great. So if you look at it, you tabulate here. He had 7 really solid guys who were real legitimate world champions that he faced in his career. It's just really good for 51 and 1. Okay, 51, 0 and 1. That's really good. Okay, but once again, I'm just showing you guys that Ricardo Lopez, as great as he sounds and as great as he was, is just 7 names. Now Andre Ward. Andre Ward, let me just try and get all the way down there. Come on. There you go. All right. Andre Ward faced, you talk Andre Ward, you're talking another category of fighter, but nonetheless. Andre Ward faced Sergey Kovalev, who was the guy at light heavyweight, and beat him. Okay? It took 2 fights for him to do that, to convincingly beat him so that everybody believed. He faced him. He also faced Chad Dawson. Again, Chad Dawson was a light heavyweight champion that went down to super middleweight. Chad Dawson was never the same. Sergey Kovalev, even though he won a championship, I don't think he's ever the same. He then also beat Carl Froch, who was the man at super middleweight. Arthur Abraham was a long-reigning German super middleweight champion, as well as Sekio Bika, who also Kozaki also beat. And he also beat Mikhail Kessler. So those are the names that he actually beat, who were world champions. They weren't any former world champions. They were actually world champions. It was in the Super 6. So he beat Mikhail Kessler, Sekio Bika, Carl Froch, Chad Dawson, and Sergey Kovalev. That comes to 7 names in his 30 fights. I believe he's 31 or 31 fights. I can't remember which one it is. Andre Ward, just so impressive. 32 fights, no losses, no draws, no contests. Okay? And he did it at super middleweight as well as he did it at light heavyweight. It's very impressive. But again, just 6 or 7 names. Now, when we talk about Floyd Mayweather, not only are we talking about multiple weight classes, but like I said before, we're looking at the level of competition. When we talk about Floyd Mayweather, we're talking about a different stratosphere of names. So, just taking a while to get down to his resume here. To his boxing resume. Oh boy. Talk about blah, 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 blah. Okay. I don't care about how much money he made in boxing. That does not impress me. This is what impresses me. So his first championship title fight was against Gennaro Hernandez. Keep track of how many names we're talking about. Gennaro Hernandez is already in the World Boxing Hall of Fame. All right. He also faced former world champion Gregorio Vargas. Okay. He then faced Diego Corrales. Okay. Legendary Diego Corrales, multiple weight champion. You know, became world champion after Floyd beat him and so on. Okay. He then faced Cesar Chavez, who became two-time world champion in two different weight classes, lightweight and super featherweight. Okay. Keep track of what is happening. Jose Luis Castillo, who was the #1 lightweight in the world. Okay. And three-time world champion. Okay, Jose Luis Castillo. All right. He faced DeMarcus Corley, Arturo Gatti, Zab Judah, Carlos Baldomir, we're at 10, Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Manuel Marquez, Shane Mosley, Victor Ortiz, Miguel Cotto, Canelo Alvarez, Marcos Maidana, Manny Pacquiao. Let's just stop right there. That's 20 names. 20 freaking names, dude. I'm not going to include, I might as well include Andre Berto. That's 21. He faced 22 legitimate names in the sport of boxing in 50 fights. So it's not just that Floyd Mayweather Jr. was 50-0, but it's 50-0 faced 22 legitimate former or present world champions. 22. Not only that, but a lot of those fighters that I just mentioned, those fighters were, you know, guys with recognition and name coming off some of their greatest wins of their careers. Gennaro Hernandez beat Azuma Nelson and then future world champions Carlos Hernandez and Anatoly Alexandrov. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. All right, Shane Mosley came off the greatest win of his career against Antonio Margarito to become the #1 welterweight in the world. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So when you talk about Floyd Mayweather, you know, faced Manny Pacquiao, coming off a devastating win over Chris Algieri, you know, when you talk about that kind of fighter in Floyd Mayweather Jr., you talk about a totally different stratosphere. I mean, Manny Pacquiao right now is considered one of the greatest fighters, if not the greatest boxer of all time. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Canelo Alvarez is right now pound for pound #1 in the world. That's the kind of opposition this dude was fighting in 50 fights. Nobody else in the history of boxing has done that, man. So that's why I don't agree with people talking about his 50-0 is like other undefeated fighters. No, it's not. It's not. It's not even like any other fighter's winning streak. All right, guys. I'll catch you later in the next video. You guys have a good one.